I want to give my thoughts on the upcoming Canadian election. It's just going to be straight opinion this time for this topic. I'll get into it. So let's just dive right in. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has dropped the writ as of September 11, 2019. This officially kicks off this year's federal election. That meant Governor General Julie Payette dissolved Parliament, and 40 days from the 11th, there will be a vote. Woo bloody who. I just want to get into my feelings based purely on what I've read and heard thus far. I will do another segment in a future episode before Election Day about party platforms and all that. I may even do some YouTube videos depending on schedule, but as well as covering debates if anyone has a major gaffe that I can't ignore. Again, if time permits. But I'm not excited for the vote, and I can't hide it. I'll be honest, I just don't bloody care anymore. There's no change. We have liberals who have forgotten what the word liberal actually means. We have a conservative party that is trying to essentially act like what the liberals should be, rather than actually be conservative. You have New Democrats, or NDP as they're referred to here, but I absolutely hate acronyms. They seem to want to be irrelevant. The Green Party doesn't want to try to woo anyone who isn't an environmentalist. And the Green Party, along with not wanting to woo anybody that is an environmentalist, they also don't want to seem to woo anybody that isn't a social justice warrior either. The Bloc Québécois, is it even still together? And let's face it, supporting the People's Party in this political climate is career and social suicide. So what is there to even be freaking excited about? There are only two parties that actually have a reasonable chance to win. The Liberals are trying to look like they're more compassionate to a wider array of people. And the Conservatives are trying to paint themselves as saner liberals. Well, sorry, but you both bloody suck, and neither of you deserve my vote. Guess what? I want my Liberals and my Conservatives different from each other. We need different options from different ends of the political spectrum. There are times in economic situations where left-wing policies are attractive. And there are times when the right-wing policies can be attractive. This is why we need parties running on platforms that actually reflect their ideologies. So in this case, we have liberals that are going hog wild on the social justice warrior mentality. The New Democrats and the Green Party are doing it as well. The New Democrats believe in social censorship. Let's start with them. That's right, political censorship. They may not call it that, but their support is clear when they applauded the exclusion of the People's Party from the English and French debates. And doubled down on that when the party was eventually included. This is appalling from a political... my apologies. The applauding a form of political censorship is unacceptable. The party claims that the People's Party message was hateful and thus can't be platformed. After the Commission's decision, again, they doubled down on this again, saying hateful and it encourages white supremacy. These terms are being thrown around so much, like there is no tomorrow. Once again, I want to thank the NDP for tearing down everything Jack Layton built. This garbage is going to give me that stroke and a heart attack at the same time. Mock my words. This, in my opinion, tells me all I need to know about the New Democrats. They do not deserve my support. They do not deserve your support, in my opinion. If they applaud the censorship of their opponents, What is to stop them from supporting more censorship? You can't stop bad ideas by making them taboo or harder to hear. You let people express their bad ideas and then rebut them with good ideas. When did that go out of style? All you are saying is that you fear what the People's Party has to say. This one action alone disqualifies the New Democrats and all their candidates from getting my support. And this is likely going to prevent them from getting my support for a very long time. To me, if you don't speak out against censorship or leave the party, you are communicating to me that you support censorship. So right there, the New Democrats are off the table. Now, the New Democrat leader, Jagmeet Singh, spent most of his term as leader without a seat in Parliament. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he now has one that he got in a by-election in BC. But I think he spent way too much time outside of the House of Commons to be taken seriously, at least in this election. In whatever one comes after 2019, that could change. But right now, nope. He has given us so little time to show how he would act as a party leader in Parliament. So as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing much to say about him. He's bland and has no presence. In my eyes, Jagmeet can't save his party from the censorship position. So now let's move on to the Liberals. We could talk much more about the Liberal leader since he has at least had his seat for the last 4 years. He's definitely had it longer than that. But he's definitely at least been leader for the last 4 years. He's been leader a lot longer than that too for the Liberals, but again, you get my point. I feel Justin Trudeau is untrustworthy. In the past, he has taken actions that would deepen the divide between francophones and anglophones. In 2015, he refused to answer a question asked of him in English in Quebec in English. A week prior, he did the same thing in Ontario when a question was asked of him in French. I did a video about that on my YouTube channel. Check it out if you want. For me, as a Francophone Canadian living in an English-speaking area of Canada, I have no desire, zero, to keep fighting the linguistic battles of the past. I can live perfectly fine as a French speaker in English Canada. Neither side will gain anything from continuing to fight on this. So Trudeau lost me on that issue alone. The criticism he faced largely centered on how the Anglophone minority in Quebec was treated, rather than the other way around. But my issue with Trudeau does not end there. Then we have Trudeau's blatant Quebec favoritism in the SNC-Lavalin scandal. He bent over backwards so the company would preserve jobs, but did little to help the Alberta oil fields or Ontario auto workers. Just two examples. He clearly messed up when he tried to pressure then Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould to avoid prosecuting SNC-Lavalin over bribery and corruption charges in Libya. I have a problem with that. I thought the left was supposed to be about I thought the left was supposed to not be about sticking up for corporations and sticking up for people. Trudeau could say it's about preserving jobs, which is fine, but it's blatantly obvious it's because the jobs were from Quebec. If this was an Alberta oil company, I doubt there would have been a scandal because he would have just let the prosecution happen, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. So to me, Trudeau has compromised ethics and should not even be the Liberal leader, let alone Prime Minister. Another issue I have is when he just yelled at a woman and called her racist when she questioned his policies. That's not an argument. That is just shouting down this woman who is questioning his policies. He's clearly playing by the rules of the American left, which puts me off. This woman could have opposed Trudeau's policies on a genuinely racist level, but you don't win arguments and bring people together just by hurling ad hominem attacks on them. I think Trudeau is a hypocrite. on his environmentalism and feminism. No one would even care if he didn't publicly make a big deal that he is both those things. Now, it's enough bashing Trudeau. Let's go to the party itself. One worry that I have is the digital charter the Liberals passed. I've heard it described as a means to compel social media companies, force them to follow the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which comes to online harassment. On paper, that sounds great. But when it is passed, when you realize it's passed through a lens of social justice, I get the feeling that only the protected groups under that ideology are the ones that are going to be advocated for. This is troublesome because everyone of all genders, races, religions, identities, and any other way you want to subdivide people, get harassed online. Absolutely everybody does. That includes a white, straight, cisgender Christian man, as well as everybody else. I doubt small L liberals. Now that means those who believe in liberalism but do not necessarily support the Liberal Party truly realize how far to the left the Liberals have gone. I think the people that won't know that are those that don't know much about internet culture or know what's going on in the social justice warrior ranks. They're lucky. But they may wrongfully think the Liberals are still center-left. So now let's move on to the Green Party. They're in an odd position. I've heard that the Greens could be in a position to eclipse the New Democrats. I don't know how realistic that claim is, but how relevant could the Green Party be if its main issue, the environment, has essentially been adopted by and incorporated by most of the other parties? So how can the Greens fully stand out in those circumstances? I doubt it will, unless it draws the New Democrat support after all. Unlike Jagmeet, leader Elizabeth May has held her seat during the entire Trudeau tenure as PM. That does not mean she has demonstrated that she is capable of being the leader of the country, however, but whatever. I went over these first three parties for a reason. Here in the Canadian left, we have at least three major parties. These parties, however, are not clustered at various points on the left at all. They all talk social justice, income inequality, and the environment. They are all leaning further and further left while doing little to differentiate from each other. I honestly cannot tell the difference sometimes between the Liberals, the New Democrats, and the Greens. I saw a political cartoon that I found hilarious. It had the Conservative logo on one side and a red Liberal logo, a green Liberal logo, and an orange Liberal logo on the other. It made me laugh because it's true. Sometimes it is incredibly hard to differentiate between those three parties. All are acting like they are the center, when realistically they're all further and further and further left than they'd want to admit. So now let's talk Conservatives. The Conservatives right now have been called Liberal Light, essentially, and I agree. I feel they are playing by the old rules. Leader Andrew Scheer is not seeking out alternative media. He's sticking with establishment media. I think he is risking losing out on a crowd that wants an alternative from the left-wing three-party bloc. The Conservatives developed a climate plan. I think it is clear they are trying to court voters from the center and the left, essentially center-left people. I don't want to fault them for that or coming up with a climate plan. We should appreciate a party on the right that is developing such a plan. Now, we could debate how effective Scheer's plan would be, but good on you for taking up that issue. The problem I have is we need conservatives. We don't need conservatives moving to the left or to the left of center position just because the liberals abandoned it. That's where the liberals should be. The conservatives should stay right of center. Let the New Democrats and the Greens fight for whoever wants to be further left. This is why it concerns me. Center-left voters, which is what I consider myself, may go conservative, but the further left voters won't. So I doubt the right-wing voters will abandon the conservatives, but if the party goes too far to the left, will the base just stay home? If the conservatives lose their base, Trudeau could get easily another term. But not because he earned it, but because the opposition blew it. And Trudeau won't see it that way. He'll think he earned it. He'll think he won and dealt a knockout blow to the opposition. This is why I want my conservatives conservative and my liberals liberal. Conservatives are now entering conspiracy theory territory with the People's Party being led into the debate. It's like it is afraid now that it has to have competition from the right. I don't like that. As you've heard in previous segments. But now, let's talk about People's Party. I think this is a misunderstood party. It is not a racist or hateful party. Wanting to put Canada first or being a Canadian nationalist are not inherently bad things. For it to be bad, it would depend on how the party pursues these policies. There is nothing inherently wrong with wanting more control on immigration. If the party said there would be no immigration, then that would be a problem. Canada needs immigration to grow its population. But the party is not anti-immigration. There is nothing inherently wrong with arguing that all the foreign aid Trudeau sends abroad would have better been spent in Canada helping Canadians. Sure, if you withdraw aid because you are actually racist, as in you think your race is superior to those that would be getting the aid, then that is terrible. But race should not preclude somebody from getting help. This is why I don't think the People's Party is racist. I don't think that is why they're complaining about all the foreign aid. I also don't buy into the new social justice warrior definition of racism. It is not prejudice plus power. I'll stick with the dictionary definition that we've all been using for a long time now. The problem is the outrage mobs don't like the People's Party. They can harass people online and slander people. They can get your speech censored. They will make it hard for the average person to step up and publicly support the party. I predict that you will see people sharing photos of these parties' election signs in people's yards with disparaging comments. Now, the Bloc doesn't even run a candidate in my riding, so I can't even vote for them. So forget that party completely. Now here's an interesting point someone brought up with me. Realistically, besides the verbal rhetoric, there's very little difference between prime ministers in power. This person told me that it is the people that get special interest funding, essentially, that notice the difference. I would probably add that people that work in industries that are not supported by the current regime would feel it too. I imagine the oil workers in Alberta felt a huge difference between Harper and Trudeau. But nonetheless, I would agree with the statement that this individual referenced. I have noticed very little difference between our recent prime ministers. I've noticed that I get barely any tax release, provided that unless I move for employment to another city or I live somewhere where I get the Northern Living Allowance, Other than that, I feel no one is trying to help me save money since I don't have young kids. I've also noticed that the anti-government rhetoric in general does not change much based on who's in power. It's almost as if the slogans stay the same, but there's just a little tweak. Kind of like when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister, it'd be Harper sucks, or since he was conservative, vote anything but conservative. And now it becomes Trudeau sucks, or vote anything but liberal. So the substance does not change, just the name of the person or the name of the party under the attacks. But I think this wraps up how I feel going into this election, the lack of enthusiasm I have, just the exasperation I feel. And I doubt the traditional mainstream media will report any of this. It'll just go on like nothing's wrong, and it's too bad. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please like it. If you don't, well, there's the thumbs down. If you agree, disagree, or just want to continue the conversation, please leave a comment down below. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, Minds, and Twitter. Links will be down below in the description. Thank you again. Have yourself a good day. Until next time.